Hello, Warlords. Welcome to Saga Thursday, the show all about the skirmish miniatures game from Studio Tomahawk. Got a special guest today, Austin. How's it going, my man?
Pretty good. Yourself?
I'm doing good. And you are from the UK. Oh, you live in the UK. Are you from the UK? Okay.
Yep.
And you're on today. We're going to talk about the Polish warband from Age of Crusades. So this is one you don't hear too much about, and it took some searching out to find the right man. I found him. We got him, people. So you recently, is this kind of a newer warband for you, or you've been playing them a while?
I've been playing for a couple of months on the lead up to BritCon, which was last weekend.
So we were
thought I'd try something
chatting
different.
a little bit about that, and as it turns out, I've actually the second and third last game I played were against the Polish, kind of a newer player. So I saw the potential there, but as this guy was completely new to Saga, so it's going to be a uphill battle. So this board is quite interesting looking at it. You're really kind of torn between the horse and the walking man, and there's a lot of these billies don't work for one or the other. So I could see that being a challenge. Yeah. Just kind of managing that when you're building your army. And so on this, in your test games and stuff, how have they been going? Are they pretty fun to play, or?
They're interesting to play. They're tricky.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite a challenging board for the reasons you've just stated. It does pull you in lots of different directions, and it's difficult to even go cavalry heavy or infantry heavy, just because the way that the abilities are laid out. So it's a tricky board to play, I felt.
Yeah, really. You got to take both. You got to take the horse, and you got to take some foot guys, or else you're only using half the board.
You end up taking a bit of everything, really, and that then really compromises you.
So, but there are good abilities in there. Maybe not as many synergies as the other boards where you can, stack up 5 abilities on the same unit. Yeah, you just got to pick the right ones here. So let's get into the unit selections here. Pretty easy up top, it would seem, but you do have some choices here. Warlord and Hearthguards are mounted on horses. No qualms there. And I think you definitely do want to take some Hearthguards. Are you of that opinion, or would you?
You don't need anything there's nothing on the board that specifies Hearthguard.
That actually.
So you could take
for Age of Crusades. That is kind of different. There usually are a couple of Hearthguard specific abilities. I mean, there is one, the Squires ability. I mean, you just wouldn't be able to use it.
Yeah,
if you didn't.
We'll talk about the Squires.
You didn't have any Hearthguards here. So have you been taken?
I did take Hearthguard because I thought I was going to be a bit short of dice for reasons. So they're just easier to activate. So I took Hearthguard rather than a unit of warrior cavalry.
Yeah, that's interesting. When I was thinking about this warband, I was just assuming that like Age of Crusades, you're kind of locked into a unit or two of Hearthguard. But yeah, now that you say there's nothing, I mean, the utility of that Squires ability too can be questionable.
Yeah, it's marginal, that one.
So, okay, yeah, interesting. I'll keep that in mind. So the warriors, you can be equipped with heavy weapons or mounted on horses. So that's a nice mix there. I think either of those are great for warriors. There's one ability that you'd want to close ranks, perhaps. So that one might make you sad. But are you taking the big choppers, or what are you?
Yeah, I took 2 units of warriors with the heavy weapons.
Okay.
I took cavalry as well, but I don't think I ever fielded it at all. I always took them with the heavy weapons.
Yeah, I think maybe even the heavy weapons are good. There's some good abilities on there that work with those guys, and I think maybe just the horses, just to keep up with the Hearthguard, maybe would be an option. But down the bottom here, this is pretty exciting. No equipment levy. Gotta love it whenever you see those guys, or equipped with bows.
Yeah.
And I don't think in Age of Crusades, I don't think there's actually that many no equipment levies running around.
No.
They might be the only one. I don't know. Do you remember offhand if there's a?
I can't think of any off the top of my head.
So, yeah. Are you taking some of those boys then?
I took 2 units of levy. I took bow and shield and spear, and I think I played shield and spear almost all the way through.
Yep.
Mainly because of, as we'll see, Shieldbearers and hold the line.
Yeah, there's a couple really nice abilities there, but the shield or the bow guy, it's always handy having some bows, and like you say, you kind of just take your 2 points, and then if you think you're going to need the bows, swap them in. Otherwise.
Yeah, and there was a couple of. There's definitely one game I should have put bow out when I used the no option levy, and I should have put bow out really, and I probably would have done better. So it's one of those afterwards, when you sit back and ruminate about the game, you think, I should have put the bow out really.
Nice. But yeah, I think the bows could be good. The foot sloggers are very nice, and there's that one shooting ability. You can really do some damage. And all right, let's jump into the battle board. We are the Continental dice here up top. Nothing special or crazy, and
no, fairly standard.
Standard stuff. So let's jump into that first ability, and it's been fact already. So I got the fact version up here. I'll just read it out. This is a common or uncommon die melee ability. Your opponent cannot trigger any Saga ability during this melee. You can use your fatigue, and you get a little attack and defense dice. Just a little something that.
A cherry on the top.
So it is much more useful, I think, than the prior version. I don't think we need to get into that.
The original version was pretty rubbish.
So this fact version here. At the event where I guess in any practice games or anything, you end up using this one frequently? How does it stack up?
Almost all the time. Yeah, this goes on almost all the time, this one. It's great, especially, when you're attacking, it's great because any warband that stacks up some defensive abilities, you can just negate them. And it's not so good in defense because they'll still be able to use, obviously, their first ability. But after that, there's no abilities after that, and you get that attack and defense die. And as a board, there's not a huge lot of places where you're going to get extra dice on this one. So that's quite nice to get an extra defense and attack dice on there. This
one's really cool. I mean, you could really just having this can really change how the other guy plays. He might not even. He's accustomed to leaving up 1 or 2 abilities. He might just decide to just spend them all on his turn. For good or for ill.
And those boards where they synergize and they need several at once, that they get bigger and bigger. You can just cut them off with this because they're only using the first one if they attack you.
Yeah, this is great. You get to play all your special stuff. They don't.
That's the other thing. Yes, it's only your opponent. You're still allowed to do all your abilities.
So I rate this one pretty darn highly.
It was a good FAQ on that.
Absolutely.
Good change.
All right, let's pop over to Linebreaker here. Another good one. Can be situational, but it's a rare melee ability, mounted unit. So we got one specification there. Choose an enemy unit within short of the enemy unit in the melee. So you're fighting somebody, you're going to pick an enemy unit that's nearby, and it can't be a hero. The first 2 casualties you inflict must be removed from the chosen unit rather than the unit you are fighting. So I felt the burn on this one. I was playing against that new guy, and I wasn't careful. I had my Hearthguard hiding behind my levy, and he charges in, that's the dream swap right there. I think I was playing last Romans, so it was a unit of 6 javelin levies. So he goes in, mows them down, and then he gets 2 Hearthguard to boot. And I was just like, that was a good move.
No, it's a nice one.
Yes.
Expensive though, being a rare.
Yeah. So the rare, are you
use rares on this board?
Yeah, are you using that somewhere? I think probably Voivode.
I've used Linebreaker a couple of times, not very often, because it's a rare, and there are 2 other places that my rares generally go.
Mm-hmm.
So it is situational. If you can get a charge on somebody, then it's definitely worth playing for that reason. But you have to have the units in the right place, and it has to be something like Levy in front of Hearthguard, and you have to have some cavalry in the right place. And
yeah. So it doesn't make your unit fight any better. And you're spending a rare dice, and it's got to be a mounted unit. You got to have the enemy.
As soon as your opponent realizes it, he's going to start moving his Hearthguard well away from any Levy.
Mm-hmm. So that's the dream swap right there. Is there?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's kind of just, if it wasn't a rare, I think you could have a lot of fun with this. I mean, because you could charge into the unit of one guy, and then pop. You could do extra damage to the other unit.
True, yes.
Yeah. But it's just a rare. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not going to be having this laying around unless you're just rolling tons of crazy dice. So, all right. Let's go down to the next one here. Hold the line. I'm very curious what you think about this one, what the strategy is. Orders reaction. You can use any die. Till the end of the turn, your foot units have an aggression of 0, but get resilience 2 or resilience 3 if you use a rare. So you're not going to fight like you're not putting out anything. So maybe if they're archers, that's fine. But if you're taking the foot heavy weapon guys, the special equipment or the no special equipment levy, you generally want to fight with those guys. So is there a strategy around this? How do you roll?
I tried to play quite defensively at the weekend, and certainly in my practice games, and I'm kind of based a lot around this ability.
Okay, cool.
It's the aggression of 0 that kills it.
Yeah.
It looks a lot better than it does stop people attacking you, especially when you've got a rare on it and you've got a resilience 3. But because you're not doing anything back, you're not doing any damage, and because your aggression 0, you can't add any other dice to it. You can't use any other abilities to give yourself some extra attack dice, such as there's some other abilities that do this. The Irish have got one, haven't they? That they lose all their attack dice and things, but then they can add them later. You can't do that with this one
because you can only double your stuff.
That's
so
right.
If you double,
it's always 0.
0, that's still 0. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no way of increase. So your opponent is not going to take anything other than a fatigue from attacking you. And if you attack, it's all your foot. Mm-hmm. And the way that the war, the way that your options are, 2/3 of your foot units are going to be armor 3. So even attacking with 8 attack dice, they're going to be doing 4 hits or so, maybe 3 or 4 casualties.
Mm-hmm.
So you can quickly exhaust a unit just with one attack.
Yeah.
Now, you could argue that you could take a few casualties as well as some fatigue markers. But then and where I was using this was to control objectives or to hold objectives.
Ooh, yeah. That makes sense.
Sounds good. But if you then take 1 casualty, you've taken 2 fatigue markers and a casualty, saying, then you're handing over the control of the objective, or you're being pushed off the objective, or you're handing it over to your opponent. So you have to take them all as fatigues, and you can quickly end up with lots of exhausted troops.
Yeah,
so it's not as good as it looks.
No, once they exhaust the unit too, then they can. You're still aggression 0, but they charge in. If you're exhausted, then you don't fight back, and they just do free hits.
Yeah, and at the end of it, they've got a fatigue, and you've got either a half beaten up, exhausted unit.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Yeah, it just affects everything, all your foot guys.
And it's all your foot, yes. So even the guys with the heavy weapons, they're going to have an aggression 0 if you've played this. So if you've used it to try and keep hold of that objective marker with those foot levy that you've got, it means if he can go off and have a good attack at your other foot troops as well, because they're going to be in a similar boat.
Mm-hmm. So very, very situational.
I used it too much. I need to wean myself off it.
You get to see the downside. All right. Yeah. Another foot 1. Let's go up to Squires here. This is a common or Is that the common or is that the uncommon?
It's uncommon.
Uncommon, the helmet for the Continental dice and a rare. Activation. Remove a figure from a warrior unit as a casualty in order to add a figure to a Hearthguard unit. Within short of the figure removed, the Hearthguard unit must have suffered at least one casualty. And if you use a rare, you can do this 2 times. So, yeah, a couple things about this one. I think if you're playing survival points, you're only counting troops that are alive at the end of the game. So this is could be a pretty good ability.
Well, you can play it in the last turn.
Last turn.
Play it in the last turn and convert a couple of warriors to Hearthguard and get an extra point.
If you're doing massacre points, which most scenarios are, then the issue is you're killing your own guys and their enemies getting points. They got a point for the Hearthguard. They're getting a point when you remove the warrior, or half point, whatever he comes out at, and then there's another Hearthguard, and maybe
which they're probably going to
maybe they could kill him again,
And if you use the flag, you get to do it twice.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and that's the way it is. I mean, we have Undead and Age of Magic, but those resurrection rules specifically say that they don't count for massacre points. So that's kind of one difference between that kind of resurrection and this one. So, everything being even, that's the way it works. Could be fact. I mean, so
I don't know what they could do other than not making their warrior a casualty. Maybe that would work.
Mm-hmm. Just set him aside. He doesn't count for anything. Maybe. So if you're,
it's a shame because somebody at the weekend, we were discussing it at the weekend, and somebody said thematically it's lovely and it's a great thing. You can someone being promoted on the field of battle and everything to a knight. It's really nice, but it's just a shame that it's just not very useful.
Mechanically, it doesn't generally work out. And I agree. Thematically, this is probably like the reason you would pick up this board is specifically for this ability. And so. I mean, we're playing survival points. I mean, if we're in a survival point game, does that change how you use it, or based off being a rare or uncommon?
If I could get away with it at the last turn to get an extra point, I might use it, but otherwise, no, I don't think I've ever used it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then for massacre, you just put a big X over this if you're playing massacre.
It's a greedy board anyway, so I'd see that as just a bit of a dice sink, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, you played them. I haven't. I guess when I'm thinking about this, when it might be useful is when you're down to that unit of 2 Hearthguard or 3. Once you're down to there, you really don't like putting those guys into combat anymore. No. But I mean, if the dice align, popping them back up to 3, 4, or 5.
Well, equally, if you've got one of those 3 units of, the warriors being knocked down to three warriors maybe, and you pull them back behind the line.
Yeah, on the flip side, yeah.
They're not doing a saga die anymore. You could easily kill a couple of those, and then let's say bolster your Hearthguard up to 4 again, and make it a decent unit for using.
Yeah, you're right there with the warriors, especially. With the way the math works out, you could sacrifice a guy and not necessarily lose a point. If you're at
if you're odd numbers.
If you're at 7 warriors killed, that's 4 points. If you're at 8 warriors killed because you pop Squire, that's still 4 points, assuming the units are still alive. So that's a good point there. So kind of another kind of core case ability, but
a really situational one, yeah.
But I don't know if I played, I would try to revolve my whole plan around this, and I would pump up that Hearthguard unit. So I don't know, unless it says, maybe I'm talking out my bum here, but the unit has to have suffered at least 1 casualty. But I think you could, once they suffer 1, you could just pop it up to however many. You have to over multiple turns, just keep killing them, and you get to like a 9-man Hearthguard unit or 10 or
I don't know about that.
I mean, it wouldn't be a great idea, but I might just do that for fun or something.
Well, so take a 3-man and then just play the flag to turn it into a 5-man.
And then a 7-man and then a 9-man and keep going until you're growing them. Yeah, and I guess too, sometimes with objectives, again, this can be good. If your Hearthguard have the objective, you can't trade it. So being able to just bump that unit up a little bit could be useful. So kind of a corner case, probably more useful than the hold the line. I don't know. After playing, hold the line is down in your estimation. Is it equal to Squires?
Yeah, I like I said, relied on it too much. Squires, I don't know. I've not used Squires. I've never found myself in a situation of using it. No.
Wow.
But I haven't been taking a Hearthguard heavy build. I've only taken one unit of Hearthguard and not used them too much because I've really been quite defensive.
Okay.
And I think it needs to be an offensive board, but you need to be quite aggressive with it.
Sure. Okay.
Although it kind of leads you down the defensive path.
All right. Well, let's go to the next one down the line here. No quarter. This is a 2-die common and uncommon activation. Activate a unit to charge. This unit gets 2 bonus attack dice during the melee. 4 if the enemy unit was more than medium away from your unit. So, yeah, that's good. I mean, 2 dice isn't great, but you're getting an activation and
it's a dice for an activation for the extra bonus dice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of just playing a activation and a Saga ability.
Yeah.
So it is nice having these kind of, any unit can do this, so you can kind of see how the battle's going. You don't have to commit to warrior dice or Hearthguard dice or levy dice necessarily for your plan. You can kind of see what's going on here. Obviously, having some mounted guys makes it a little better, a little juicier.
Yeah, because you get the 4, and it's the only way I think to get 4 extra dice for your cavalry.
Mm-hmm. So 2 dice. Are you queuing this one up? Just
I've used it.
Is this your standard
mainly
attack?
for cavalry? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's good. Every turn kind of ability. If you're going to charge, you'll just use this one. Or
yeah. If I'm going to charge cavalry, I use this one. I don't think I've used it for the infantry at all. I've tended to use specialists, which we'll see in a bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense. Just 2 dice. Make it kind of a steep price, but 4 plus a charge. Yeah, that's fair. All right. Now, next one here. Schlachta. Now, I played a video game like 20 years ago where you killed Schlachtka's vampire. So I know it's like an Eastern European creature or ghoul of some kind. That's what they were in the game, but maybe that's not what the word is derived from. But another 2-die ability. Actually, there's 3 on this board, so I'd say that's actually a little bit more than usual. 2 uncommons. So that's pretty pricey as things go.
Yeah.
But I think this is if you can get this lined up here, minus. If your armor's higher than the enemy, so a little bit of a condition there, they get a -1 on their attack dice. So tell me about this.
The trouble with this one is you haven't got a lot that's got high armor unless you've taken your Hearthguard cavalry. Your warriors are probably going to be on 3s. Your levy are going to be on 3s, maybe 4s. So I've rarely used it. Because if you're messing around with your Hearthguard cavalry, then you're really using no quarter as well to get the extra dice with them. Mm-hmm. So then that's 4 dice to charge them in and to get your opponent to have a -1, and that's a lot on one charge. And then you've only got 4 extra attack dice out of that.
Yeah.
So you spent 4 dice and you've got 4 extra attack dice, and your opponent's on a -1 to hit. That's really quite expensive. So I've not played it a lot.
Okay.
You could use it with mounted warriors. I suppose they're on armor 4 if you're attacking, levy or something, or your shield and spear levy. But yeah, not a lot. It's 2 uncommons. It's just too expensive.
Okay. Yeah, I think this one for me might be one that I would take some Hearthguard. I might even just plan my whole battle around using this ability because of the exhaustion and increased armor trick. So with the Hearthguard, you take that, if you could get a fatigue on them from your levies running in or whatever else, that's all it takes for your Hearthguard to charge in, pop this ability, and they won't be able to attack back. So I could see myself using a 6 or even an 8-pack, because there's not that many other abilities that are going to jack you up, to make you stronger. No quarter, you're right, it kind of takes so many dice. So you might just have,
unless you went in straight with just your 8 Hearthguard and just went with their 16 dice, so you're not playing no quarter.
Yeah, so that's 16 die. You don't need anything else to really do some serious damage, and that they'll be safe with Schlotka, for that one kind of key combat. So afterwards, keeping them safe is another issue entirely. But for that one combat, you can kind of go in risk-free. But like you were saying, it is a pricey ability, and 2 uncommons especially. It's kind of one of the more expensive abilities you can get out there. All right, well, let's pop up to Shieldbearers. Nice and cheap. Common, uncommon, melee foot unit. If your unit benefits from solid cover, the enemy unit takes a fatigue.
Sounds brilliant.
Yeah, so, and then I guess I never realized the rules work this way, but closing ranks counts. We know mechanically it works the same as solid cover, but I guess it is solid cover, according to this. So it says right in the ability, if you close ranks, they will take a fatigue. So this is another kind of pip towards the levy fighters versus the foot warriors
into the shield and the spear levy, so that you can use this.
Mm-hmm.
So already your levy again split. You take bows, you take shield and spear. If you take bow, you can't use shield bearers. Mm-hmm. You can't use this on your warriors because obviously they can't close ranks. I mean, you can use it if people are in solid cover, but I found that if you've got units in solid cover, they rarely get attacked by anybody.
Yeah, they're definitely not going to come at you if you got this queued up. This one's great with that foot levy, man. I mean, nobody wants to fight them anyways, and they're just a good value. I mean, there's another couple abilities we'll see where they synergize well, and you're charging in their armor 4. You're barely doing anything. You kill a couple. There's still 9 or 10 of them left, and then on top of it, you got 2 fatigues after the fight. That's the worst. But you do have to be the defender for this one. So
yes, that's right.
It's going to be one you're always just going to have queued up, and I guess if you can dissuade them from charging in, maybe that's a win too.
Yeah, and it leads you down and this is where I went with the defensive, making it more of a defensive warband.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the troubles with this board. It kind of leads you in lots of different directions at the same time. Yeah,
because we're looking at foot troops now, but even then, the distinction between the levy foot troops versus the archers and the heavy weapons, you can't use it on both of them.
And a moment ago, we were talking about 2 units of Hearthguard, and we're going to charge them in, and we're going to be aggressive with our Hearthguard, and now we're back to being defensive with our levy.
Yeah,
it's a bit of all over the place.
I agree. I'm kind of shaking my head at. I mean, you can do a little bit of everything, but sometimes that'll get you in trouble in a game of Saga, trying to do too much. But
it's a good one. I use it a lot. Mm-hmm. I have it queued, especially with things like hold the line and stuff like that. You've got a rare one, hold the line and shield bearers up. Yeah, nobody really bothers trying to take on your levy.
They won't come at you.
No.
All right. Well, we've got a little bit of attack ability next. Specialists, melee or shooting. Anybody can use this one. That's great. Gain 2 attack dice for an uncommon. So that's fine. But the secret sauce there, if you're equipped with bows or heavy weapons, gain 4 instead.
Yeah,
and
nice.
This is good. I like it on either one of these. Obviously, 4 dice with a +1 to hit from your heavy weapon. Yeah, that's nothing to sneeze at. I like it just on the levy, because when they charge in, if they're going to come at your levy, you just got 4 attacks. Well, now you get up to 8.
I mean,
you're going to... not only everybody hates fighting Levy, and now the Levy are attacking with just a boatload of attacks right back at you. I'm curious, for your heavy weapon warriors, are you just running those in like eight-man packs?
I took two. I split them into a 6 and a 10.
6 and a 10. Okay.
Yeah, just the 10 was the one that did the big hitters at the beginning, and then the 6 took over once the 10 had been stripped down a bit.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean, this ability is good enough that I could see. I mean, you could just run little 4-man suicide squads.
Yeah.
It could be an option. One or two of those generate a Saga die, and when you charge them in, you got 8 attacks with the +1, and you don't care if they go down.
Yeah, I mean, I put this one on almost every turn. I had this on.
Yep, I think this is just a solid ability.
Yeah.
And all right, Terror of the East. This is the other fact one. 2 commons, activation reaction. It's got to be a mounted unit. Trigger this after an enemy activation, but before it is resolved. Activate one of your units for a charge. If your unit is within M of its target, the charge unit gets 2 bonus defense dice in the ensuing melee. So you want to be further than medium.
Yeah, you want to be away.
Kind of. I guess it does line up with no quarter. No quarter, you want to be farther away too. And Terror of the East, you want to be farther away. So that I can wrap my head around that. If they were opposites, then I would be probably confusing them constantly and being in the wrong range band for one or the other.
No, you're always good if you're further away.
Mm-hmm. So
they should get the speed up with the horses.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, as long as you're charging over M, there's no downside. The other prior version was a head scratcher.
Oh, yeah, 4 defense dice or something, didn't they?
So this one is pretty cool. So it's after an enemy activation. So that could be anything. So it's after it's declared, anything. But it's not resolved. So you can, I don't know, you could get on all kinds of shenanigans with this, and it doesn't even have to be related to the, it doesn't.
No.
Yeah, you're not near that unit. You don't have to charge that unit. You don't have to interact with that unit that's being activated. Basically, on their turn, they could activate a unit, their first unit, and then you go in, or the last one. It's 2 dice. Do you use this one a lot, or how does this
I've used it a few times. It allows you to come up in your turn with a move, so that you're then within charge distance, and then you charge it in their turn, so you don't get a fatigue. So you can be 2L away, and the first thing they do, they might rest something or whatever, and then you're charging in.
Yeah, and you can, if you can get to that
to it.
If you can get to that resting unit, you can actually charge in before the melee or before they rest.
Yeah, before they rest.
So let me get rid of that fatigue for you my way, buddy.
Could be good with the clash. Get an extra dice with the clash, and of course they can't use all those nice defensive abilities they've stacked up. And you could also use it with specialists and get the 2 dice as well. But obviously you can't use it with no quarter because you can't get the 4 dice off that because that's an activation in itself. So you could add a couple of extra dice to you. And then, of course, you're sat, after a melee, and it's his turn now. So that's one of the downsides. But if you play in the right place, it can be good.
Yeah. This is kind of all right. We want this board to be able to do a little bit of everything. So we need an activation reaction in here. But you got to be careful with it. It's got to be a 2 dice ability. I think they were kind of worried about it kind of being out of place or too powerful and otherwise kind of a melee-oriented board, or So I think they probably realized, as written before, was unusable pretty much. And now it is usable. And I think for 2 dice, having something like this, and it is limited. You have to charge, so you're not like running away. So
it's 2 commons as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it does maybe impact what you could have done in your turn because you spent 2 of your dice on it and you're not using it until your opponent's turn.
Mm-hmm.
So they would only have left you maybe 4 or 5 dice in your turn.
Yeah.
So you probably weren't going to play this with any no quarter or Schlachter.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, there's one more type of ability you got to have if you're going to have a little bit of everything. And that's some activation fun. So Voivode, each foot unit within medium of your warlord removes a fatigue or is activated.
Yeah.
And you can do whatever the heck you want. You can ditch a fatigue on somebody else, activate another unit to shoot. It could be a bunch of foot. Some people see this and then they say, okay, well, I'll take 3 levy shooting units then because of this. I'm not one of those people.
Almost exactly what I did.
But are you one of those? You got 2 units of levy, so...
Yeah, I went down the 2 units of levy. I originally went with 2 shooting units of levy, packed around the warlord. I also then took a priest on foot.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, so the idea of that would mean I'd always have the rare either for this or for hold the line, and then move that as a big pack together. And then it would be coming and do lots of shooting. And then if I got all fatigued up because of the hold the line, I could because these aren't rests that it's doing; it's just removing the fatigue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you can.
And if you time it right, you could do it with the priest so that you remove his fatigue. And then, he takes a fatigue to get the rare. You remove his fatigue with this, which means that he can rest in using his determination to take another fatigue off something else. So there's some tricks you can do with it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I think this is like one of the best abilities on this board here.
It's good.
We like levy. We like the foot levies. Shooters,
but again,
shields.
It pulls you down towards foot levy, bow levy. And a minute ago, we were charging around with horses again. Now already we need a bit of everything. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to be defensive. We're going to be do some shooting. We're going to do some,
Yeah, that's really interesting because you're really locked in with your plan with allocating your dice, because not only do you have to do warriors or Hearthguard or levy. I guess with Voivode you got some variation, but you have to lock in your foot abilities, your mounted abilities, and as the battle unfolds, sometimes it can go awry, and you don't want to do what you were planning originally, but your dice are already set and they don't help. Leaving them on the opponents. You kind of see how things could go awry here, and that's kind of a high level weakness. Good boards have lots of melee shooting reaction, can use stuff on anybody. That's a really good board has the ability to do that and have a lot of variables in unlocking their saga abilities, where the Polish here are really strapped in. So it is I would say combined arms type faction, does a little bit of everything.
Well, yeah, you end up taking a little bit of everything. I'm going to keep playing them, and I want to try a few, going down maybe an all cavalry or a cavalry heavy, or maybe a heavy weapon warrior heavy build, and see whether that does anything. Yeah,
I think there's a lot you could try out with this Polish faction and try to see what works for you. The mounted stuff. But even then, you don't have to go mounted Hearthguard. You could just go mounted warriors. You can flip them out for the heavy weapon warriors. Take a load of those. If that's not working, take a bunch of the foot levy. Some combination.
And one of the other problems is because the offensive abilities, the ones where you gain your attack dice, they're kind of locked into the troop types as well. So if you had several units of, say, heavy weapon warrior, there's only really the specialists. The specialists will give you 4 attack dice.
Yeah, you only pop it once.
Scratching around with 1 or 2 attack dice with things. There's nothing else that's giving you a lot of abilities.
Okay. Yeah. Kind of strapped in. Looks like we're still trying to find the secret sauce, but I think from our conversation you could see there's probably a couple of ways you could come at it and see what works for you. And it's interesting you talked about the priest. I think with just thinking about mercenaries, so there is a little synergy with the Voivode. They could you could ditch a fatigue from a mercenary unit if they're on foot, and near your warlord. They're not going to be able to activate, but they can benefit from the fatigue, and they'll hold the line. If you have mercs on foot, maybe there's some synergy there. Most of the time, you want your mercs fighting. I can't think.
But I was finding myself, really wanting 2 rares each turn.
Mm-hmm.
So even with the priest, sometimes it wasn't
enough rares.
You need a rare for Linebreaker. You need a rare for Hold the Line. You need a rare for Voivode. Yeah, it's just really greedy.
Mm-hmm. So overall, I think definitely more of an advanced Saga players board. There's a little bit of everything in there.
I'd like to see more people playing it. It was nobody had seen it or played it at the competition, which was, well, not a surprise because you're hardly seeing it. I know there's been a couple of guys on the Discord asking about it and asking how other people play it, and there's been silence.
Yeah, nobody.
Coming back. So I'd like to see it out more. I think it's a board that can work, and I think the secret's in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think if you are playing a board that isn't as popular, you've got an advantage there. The unknown, they don't know. There's always certain little synergies and sequences that you learn after playing a board for a while, and overall, I think it looks pretty good. I think a combined arms boards are one of the trickier ones to pull off for the designers in Saga. It's always easier to just do melee on everything. So trying to find that right mix is tricky. So I'm not going to blame anybody, but I think it's a decent board. And man, did you have fun playing it?
Yeah, it is fun. It's fun watching people's reactions when you got the Resilience 3 on the levy.
That's funny.
Yeah. And you realise they're not breaking that line. but if I was playing against it, I'd just charge it anyway because there's no downside to that.
Yeah, it's
you're going to get a fatigue, but you're going to put a pile of fatigue on them. So,
like you say, they go in once. You put 1 fatigue on them for the fight. You take 1, 2, or 3. So at best case, it's a 1 each. They fluff it, but then if they come in a second time, then it's just free attack.
Yes, free attack.
Hopefully your opponent doesn't realize that, but it sounds like your opponents have a lot of fun too playing against you.
Cat's out of the bag now. One game we had wasn't so good. I just ended up getting shot because my opponent realised it wasn't all the point trying to charge them. So, of course, the hold the line is only for melee. It's not for shooting.
Oh.
So, and the whole board has nothing that's there's no shooting defense at all, which I think is fairly common in the Crusades book.
Yeah.
So you do suffer against shooting.
Okay.
And in this particular case, he just rolled up some picked crossbows and just slowly decimated me. Yeah, there wasn't much. That was the one I decided afterwards I really should have taken the bow instead of the foot levy. At least I could have done something back.
Tit for tat. Okay, that's a great point. I hadn't.
It's only melee. So if you come across it, just roll up the bow.
Or
and shoot them.
It's never good just relying on a combat bonus against shooting.
No. There was a lot of stuff on the combat bonus in that game.
Yeah, another tick against the Hearthguard then.
The mounted Hearthguard.
Okay.
Yeah, avoiding the shooting.
Well, anyways.
So a board that pulls you in every different direction. So the synergy's there somewhere. Someone will find it. Hopefully someone will post that they're having a great time and smashing everybody up with these polls.
You listening to this right now at home? It could be you. You could be the one who figures it out. Awesome. Well, are you going to keep on playing with them for a while?
Yeah. I want to try some different things with them. I've tried the defensive levy. It didn't work so well. I'm going to try an offensive. I like the foot warriors with double-handed weapons. So I'm going to try using them a bit more.
Yeah,
and
those are
try them in a full-on aggressive warband and see how that works.
Always a tasty choice. Yeah, man. Well, yeah. Let me give you an update at some point here if you settle on one build that seems to be your secret sauce. I'd be curious to hear about that. I thank you for coming on, agreeing to do this, and It sounds like we'll have you on again sometime in the near future here.
Yeah, I think we got something lined up.
Wow, is that a coincidence, or do you search out the least played fact? You know, some people like to do that, but is that?
Yeah, because before these, I was playing the Eastern Princes, trying with them.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I'm not the best Saga player in the world. I didn't have a lot of success with them, but they came third on a BritCon, which was really great to see. It was a fantastic war round, looked absolutely beautiful. But the guy playing them, he pulled a third place, which was really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I did Eastern Princes and before them I was playing Milite's Christie, which is I think is another fairly challenging board.
Yeah, so that's the one that I got my eye on you. Have you back for that one?
Yeah, we're going to do that sometime.
It's been tough trying to get somebody to step up and chat with me about both of those. So I thank you heartily for agreeing to come on, and thank you for being a patron on the Patreon, my man. So
it's great. It's great what you're doing. Yeah, it's brilliant.
I want to give a shout out to Terry, Patrick, Sean, Mitchell, Kevin, and Scott. I got to update my list here. And all the other patrons for making this video possible. So definitely without you guys, I wouldn't be doing these extra faction reviews. And I appreciate it greatly. And definitely comment below if you've played against or with the Polish, or if you have any thoughts based off what you saw there, if there's any crazy merc unit that would just unleash the full potential. I don't know. I was liking the sound of that priest. The priest shenanigans you were breaking out there. That sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, you're down at Saga dice. That's the downside, and that's why I took the Hearthguard in the end, because I thought I was going to be short dice. Mm-hmm. So the Hearthguard is just a bit more flexible than the Warrior Horse, because you do lose that Saga dice with the priest, which is a bit of a shame.
I don't know. He might be getting it back. The invasions, the seer has it, so the seer's going to lose it, or the priest he might get it back. I don't know.
I don't know. A priest with a Saga die, I think that's a bit too much.
Wow, I don't know. Sometimes you're down 8 bodies, so you got to make it up. Make it up some way, but yeah, I don't know. Probably 2023 on the FAQ. We got a couple years to go before I change. I'm assuming here. All right. Yeah. Thanks again to Austin and everybody else, and hopefully we'll see you again. It's great. It's my first time chatting with you, and you seem like a cool dude. So, yeah, mighty thanks, and we'll catch y'all next time. All right. Bye-bye, folks. Saga! If you'd like to see more Saga content, consider joining the Heathen Army over on Patreon, or popping on down to the Saga Thursday Discord server. Links below. Thanks, guys.